So with that, I am going to give you SCP-4000 Taboo. So, first of all, we'll notice this is not actually called SCP-4000. There is actually no number associated with this. In fact, what would be the title has been redacted. The title has been redacted as per Protocol 4000 issue. Warning. The following anomaly is affected by communication. Do not refer to it in speech or writing unless trained. We have a picture of a humanoid entity manifesting in midair. Item number. Restricted as per Protocol 4000 issue. Object class Keter. Special containment procedures. The extra-dimensional location described below, as well as the entities and landmarks contained therein, are nomenclative hazards, issue class, and therefore may not be referred to by any name, title, or designation. The only descriptions that may be used when referring to the forest outside of normative space and native entities thereof. Variations must be made in these descriptions each time a subject is described. Descriptions may be color-coded for clarity. There is actually a color blindness mode on this page. And florid language may be used for the sake of nomenclative diversity. In the event of a nomenclative containment breach, standard issue class recontainment protocol must be carried out immediately by the individual responsible for the breach. If the individual is rendered unable to perform the procedure, the responsibility falls to the individual's next of kin. If the individual responsible for the breach has no known next of kin, the individual's name must be expurged from all existing documents and records. Any other individuals possessing the same name are to be administered type G viral amnestics and assigned a new one. In accordance with Order 05-4000-F26, at least one successful expedition into the strange and dangerous woodland area must be carried out per year to assess any deviations from baseline abnormality. Due to the high risk involved in entering the place where the nameless are found, personnel sent in to conduct research must be trained in the standard exploration protocol as detailed in 4000 SCP. Unauthorized documentation of the forest found in chimneys must be suppressed via standard information containment protocol. Unauthorized individuals with knowledge of Procedure 4000 Halloway are to be administered amnestics, amnestic class to be considered on a case-by-case basis, and may be released following a period of disquisitional rehabilitation. Description. The SCP in question is an extra-dimensional forested area with numerous anomalous qualities, including a hazardous nomenclative phenomenon. This anomalous location is accessed by performing 4000 Halloway. See document Doc 4000H. After completing the procedure, subjects emerge from the opening of a dilapidated brick well fixed onto the forest floor. The only way to reliably traverse the unusual terrain is by the use of a single dirt path. Explorations that diverge from said route have resulted in the immediate loss of contact with participating subjects. The sole safe road may only be traversed in a single direction, and any attempt by subjects to turn back and return the way they came will result in a similar loss of contact. The unnamed world does not adhere to the constraints of linear space. Cartographic endeavors have resulted in vastly different routes being recorded with each expedition, and sections of the mandatory trail, which should logically overlap or intersect, do not. Similar topographic anomalies have been observed in geonormative forests as well, though no direct connection between these phenomena have been confirmed. The only consistency in the layout is the access point, which is always located at both ends of the main road. The only way for a subject to safely exit the woods which have no name, after they have begun following it, is by walking its entire length and returning to the place where they began at the opposite end. Hold for just a moment. A variety of anomalous entities native to the nameless habitat have been documented. Native entities often undergo changes in physical structure when unobserved, which has made it difficult for researchers to determine which recorded entities are unique beings and which are just simply newer iterations of those previously documented. Entities claim they have no control over these changes and frequently express dissatisfaction when they occur. Native entities often obstruct the trail which subjects tread, making it necessary for subjects to interact with them to progress. Native entities are sapient and often highly temperamental, but can be interacted with safely as long as 4000 SCP precautions are followed. Rare occasions have been recorded where native entities appeared inherently inimical towards human life. Consequences for disregarding these precautions will vary depending on the personality of the offended entity. Degrees of retribution encountered by research subjects have included verbal rebuke, acts of violence, and anomalous alteration of the subject's physical, conceptual, or nomenclative attributes. Various anomalous phenomena may occur when consistent nomenclature is applied to the realm of the unnameable, its native entities, or its landmarks. These phenomena are still poorly understood, partially due to the prohibition of nomenclative experimentation under Order 05-4000 F26. Documented nomenclative phenomena have included episodic cluster headaches among subjects exposed to affected nomenclature, visual and auditory hallucination among exposed subjects, usually involving environments or entities described by nomenclature. Gustatory hallucination and phantasmia have also been reported in a small subset of cases. Sudden onset of psychogenic amnesia among exposed subjects. The development of non-human physical characteristics among exposed subjects, such as feathers and pollen sacs. The development of biological components in non-biological mediums where nomenclature is written or recorded. Sudden involuntary transport of exposed subjects to the wilderness of unnamed things without the use of Procedure 4000 Halloway. Manifestation of various flora within indoor spaces where nomenclature was used. Sudden transport of native entities to areas where nomenclature was used. Biological fusion of exposed subjects and native entities. Biological fusion of native entities and architectural spaces where nomenclature was used. Extreme iron deficiency in exposed substances with an absence of expected negative side effect. Order 05-4000 F26 was ratified by the Overseer Council in 1954. A 1970 amendment requires that 05-4000 F26 receive unanimous endorsement from the Council every 10 years in order to remain in effect. To date, no Overseer memos regarding 05-4000 F26 have been disseminated to lower clearance levels. That's quite a description we have on our hand for this SCP. Let's take a look at some notable containment breaches. Addendum. The following are examples of anomalous phenomena observed during nomenclative breaches. 9th of June, 1954. Named subject, the glade of which we seldom speak. Initial discovery and subsequent breach took place in an abandoned home in rural Connecticut. Circumstances of the discovery are unclear due to a lack of supervising personnel, but a general timeline of events has been established. Timestamps are in standard NATO format. 1340. The hollow of unspoken titles is discovered and given a temporary Type E designation by Field Agent Garrett Bradley, creating nomenclative breach. Archaic object class uses preliminary designation for newly discovered anomalies still in unsecured state. Field Agent Moira Genotti enters the land beyond the flue and is never recovered. Agent Bradley begins to gradually sink into the hardwood floor. Nearby agents flee the area. Soon after exiting the house, all agents are suddenly rendered immobile, with the exception of Timothy Woods, who was not aware of the Type E designation. Immobilized agents vocalize distress as their torsos elongate. Elongation ceases after agents have reached a height approximating that of the chimney where Procedure 4000 Halloway was performed. Smoke expels from their facial orifices. Timothy Woods reports these developments via radio to Site 8. Secondary breach is caused when Timothy Woods repeatedly uses the phrase, "the redacted," to describe the world where words have power. Timothy Woods states that he sees his name in the trees. Site 8 personnel press Timothy Woods for information. Timothy Woods attempts to orally consume his radio and soon expires from internal injuries. Timothy Woods corresponded to Site 8 are observed suffering from severe headaches and are placed under quarantine. Osteal protrusions resembling tree branches emerge from the orbital cavities of quarantined Site 8 personnel. Personnel report no physical discomfort despite exhibiting full globe luxation in both sockets. Nomenclative anomaly eventually discovered after numerous cycles of multivariable D-class exposure to Site 8 personnel. 22nd of December, 55. Named subject, the footpath which loops around the entire area. Summary. Desk completed the first successful exploratory mission in the grove beneath nameless stars and was immediately quarantined. After exhibiting no anomalous effects for 72 hours, Desk was then allowed to write an account of his experiences. When researchers returned to check on his progress, Desk had vanished. Traces of soil and human tissue were later found in the pencil, paper, and Harvey Mansfield Desk had used in his writing. 19th of August, 58. Named subject, the native entity that sits atop a throne of bones and cradles a flaming child. After completing an exploratory mission, Field Agent Ethan Mercy used the same epithet several times when describing a particular native entity. Several minutes later, he complained of severe nausea and began to vomit blood and bone marrow. Over the course of several hours, Agent Mercy was reported to have somehow orally expelled most of his bones. Personnel throughout Site 8 experienced auditory hallucinations of a woman's laughter for the next several days. 4th of March, 66. Named subject, the native entity that resembles a feathered lion with a skeletal ram's head. College student Vanessa Hayforth attempted to check into numerous medical facilities in and around Portland, Oregon, complaining that her head had become covered in flesh despite exhibiting no signs of unusual tissue growth. She was eventually detained by Foundation investigators and found to be in possession of a book that described, among other things, Procedure 4000 Halloway in its entirety. The full contents of the book are restricted to Level 5 personnel under Order 54000F26. However, official statements have noted that certain rituals and locations described in the book bear strong similarities to SCP-1660 and SCP-860. Recent declassifications have revealed that another passage may have been written in reference to SCP-3560, which was discovered more than 50 years after the book's recovery. The significance of SCP-3560 potentially predating the existence of Anderson Robotics is yet to be determined. None of those mean anything to me because I don't know any of those SCPs. After stipulating that Foundation personnel assist in removing the flesh from her head if she cooperated, no such procedure was ever carried out. Hayforth confessed that she had received the book from an acquaintance in the Wanderer's Library. Afterward, this is the first known case of a civilian-triggered nomenclative breach. Similar incidents have occurred intermittently since. In 2012, a native entity was photographed that superficially resembled a young Hayworth more than 2 decades after Hayworth died in Foundation custody. 30th of October, 92. Some year gap here, by the way. The house in which Michael Ashley Vincent spent several nights during his exploratory mission. Agent Michael Ashley Vincent, who had completed an exploratory mission several years prior, used the possessive phrase redacted house several times while recounting the stories to 2 of his colleagues who did not have names. This statement has been flagged for potential memetic corruption. I don't care what the records say. After 30 years in the Department of Memetics, you learn to follow your gut, and right now my gut is telling me that there's something off about this line. Sometime later, a large brick building manifested inside Site-08, intersecting with existing architecture. Michael Ashley Vincent's headless body was found inside, seizing violently, and fused at the neck to a light fixture made of elk antlers. His face, which did not appear animate, had enlarged to take up the entire surface area of the building's floor. Field agents sent into the face's mouth found that it did not possess a full digestive tract. However, Michael Ashley Vincent's nameless colleagues were reported to have been conjoined with its uvula. Let's take a look at 4000 Halloway. 4000 Halloway. The following is a censored list of instructions for accessing the horizon beyond labels. Certain steps have been omitted in this version of the document. Phrases and counterphrases at the end of the procedure will differ depending on the subject's type category. The oldest child in their family, type 1, the middleborn, type 2, or the youngest or only child, type 3. 1. Using organic kindling, start a steady flame with any indoor fireplace. 2. Combine the powdered bones of a male red fox, vulpes, any age, and an adult male lion, Panthera leo, and a baleen whale, Mysticetti, any age, any gender. Cast the mixture into a fire. Take an easily burnt personal possession of strong sentimental value and allow the fire to consume it. Carefully release 3 feathers from any black-plumed bird of the genus Corvus over the fire and allow the smoke to carry them up the flue. If the fire begins to emit vocalizations, respond with the appropriate counterphrase. See phrases and counterphrases below. If the correct statements are given, the fireplace will expand and the ladder will descend. The fire will be harmless. If incorrect statements are made for any reason, immediately apologize and do not attempt Procedure 4000 Halloway again at any point in the future. Note, individuals who are present during Procedure 4000 Halloway but were not the one conducting Procedure 4000 Halloway must not respond to vocalizations or approach the active fireplace under any circumstances. Phrases and counterphrases. Variant 1, which is for Type 1 subjects. This is the oldest child in their family. Phrase. These woods have rules. Counterphrase. Or so they say. And if you break them, a price I'll pay. Variant 2 for Type 2 subjects, middle children. Is someone there? There's only me. And who are you? I guess you'll see. Variant 3 for the youngest children. What do you seek? To walk the trees. Now mind your manners. To walk them, please. End of the document. 4000 SEP. The following is a truncated list containing only instructions that are crucial to survival. Personnel assigned to explorative duties must also familiarize themselves with 4000 SCP 3 through 8 before embarking. 1. General guidelines for exploration. You must be equipped with a standard Foundation expedition pack prior to entering the place where names are not allowed. Do not consume any food other than the rations included inside the standard Foundation expedition pack. Do not bring firearms into the dimension of trees under any circumstances. Type 1 subjects must avoid accepting or directly handling that which could be considered as a valuable resource. This includes, but is not limited to, forms of currency, precious metals and stones, objects imbued with useful anomalous properties, and any well-crafted weaponry. Type 2 subjects must avoid any negative entities that regard the subject with affection or romantic attraction, and must not give the appearance of reciprocating these feelings in any way. Statements made by a native entity which profess affection or romantic attraction for a Type 2 subject are false. Type 3 subjects must avoid partaking in activities that are commonly considered frivolous, luxurious, or physically comforting. This includes, but is not limited to, dancing, smoking, playing with toys, drinking anything other than water, listening to music, and sleeping on a padded surface. Structures encountered along the way you must travel may be entered after knocking at the entryway. Leave the structure from where you came. If entering uninvited, do not be discovered. If you fall asleep in the woods where rules are paramount, record your dreams. A journal is included in your expedition pack. If you encounter any landmarks or entities similar to a dream you recorded, treat the dream as fact. SCP-2, Guidelines for Interacting with Native Entities. Greet native entities with any formal salutation. Examples of accepted greetings: good morning, hello, pardon me. Examples of unacceptable greetings: hey, yo, what's up? Before engaging in conversation. If female, bow or curtsy. Speak in a cordial tone of voice. Do not make any statements you know to be false. Do not make disparaging comments about native entities while in their presence. Say please and thank you when appropriate. Refer to and address native entities using descriptions of their physical appearance per Protocol 4000 SU. Do not refer to a native entity by a name, title, or designation, even if it introduces itself with such. Do not state your name, nickname, codename, alias, or any other personal designation when in the presence of a native entity. If a native entity offers to assign you a name, title, or designation, politely decline. If a native entity makes a statement in which it addresses or refers to you by a name, title, designation, or anything other than a physical description, ignore that statement as though it had not been spoken. If pressed for information that is considered confidential, refuse, briefly apologize, and bow. If a native entity appears to require your assistance, consider its appearance before choosing to help. If the entity appears threatening, do whatever is necessary to aid it. If the entity appears attractive or harmless, do not approach. Always feed a native entity if it is hungry. This overrules the previous rule. Do not attempt to mount any bestial entities you encounter, unless it has earned your trust, given you its consent. If you are offered a physical gift, receive it with both hands. Do not discard this gift, even if it appears to have no use or value. This is overruled by 104, which is the one that said Type 1 subjects must not accept handling anything that's of resource, anything that's a usable resource. If a native entity offers you a non-physical gift or attempts to initiate a trade, politely decline. You may accept food offered by native entities and offer that food to other native entities you encounter, but do not consume it yourself. Do not sleep in any lodging offered by native entities. You may sleep inside the residence of a native entity as long as you do not have an invitation to do so. If a native entity offers to accompany on your journey, accept, but do not tell them where you are going. If you are aided by a native entity, you must aid it in return if you have not done so already. If you encounter an incorporeal humanoid that claims it is not a native entity, disregard all previous protocols and follow its instructions. We have an interview log. The data was initially expunged. However, additional credentials are entered, and the access is granted to a Dr. Jaspers. Interview archive 4000_0215. The following is a series of interviews conducted by Dr. Eugene Japers, Japers, over the course of several years. The data has been expunged from all general documents under Order 05-4000, F26. It is broken into 3 tabs. The first is Encounter 1. Interviewer, Dr. Eugene Japers. Interviewee, the native entity with a head resembling that of a rabbit's. Forward. Interview conducted in 2005 during Japers' first introduction into the space where speech is deadly. Good morning, strange traveler. Good morning. It's nice to see a new face around these parts. Kindly excuse the smoke, just airing my thoughts. How is your name? I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't tell you that. Dr. Japers bows. Are you simple? I am merely asking how your name is. My name has smelt of raspberries lately, I think. Or snapdragons, perhaps. It's so hard to tell these days, but one makes an effort. Ah, my apologies. I'm afraid my name has tasted rather tart of late. The leporine entity laughs and doffs its hat. No, I'm the one who should apologize. I shouldn't have pried. It's quite all right. I don't mind at all. It has been lovely to meet you, but I must be on my way. Must you, though? My home is close by, and I was hoping to invite you in for tea. Japers bows again. I'm terribly sorry, but unfortunately I cannot stop at this moment. Perhaps another day. Very well. Until next time, stranger whose name tastes rather tart. Encounter 2. Interviewee description, the gentleman with the leporine visage. Interview conducted in 2008 during Japers' 4th expedition into the burrow betwixt the bricks. Dr. Japers crests a hill and discovers his hair-like acquaintance tending to a patch of cabbages. Good afternoon, stranger. Pardon me, we've met before, haven't we? Good afternoon. I believe so, yes. 3 years ago, if memory serves. I remember now. You ran off in quite a hurry. Yes, my apologies for that. At that time, I was new here and wary of those I encountered. Still the apologetic one, I see. No matter. You're not from here? Very interesting. What woods are you from? I do not come from any woods. Nonsense. You clearly have trees where you're from, do you not? We do have trees, but they're very sparse. Most of the land is covered in homes and businesses. Then they are inferior woods. But woods nonetheless. Tell me, how did you get here? I see you have an inquiring mind. I would like to ask you a question, if that's all right. Pardon my lack of manners. I consider myself something of a scholar, you see, and I get a bit excited when I have a chance to learn of forests outside my own. By all means, pose your question. When we last met, you said it had become difficult to describe your name. Do you have any theories for why that might be? I can only assume it's because of how long we've been apart. My name and I, that is. It was a good name, A proud name, I'm fairly sure. By this point, though, it's probably decayed from its former grandeur, if it even still exists. Where do you think it is currently? First, fellow scholar, you must answer my previous question. Japers nods. I came through the old but distinguished well at the end of the footpath I'm presently perambulating. This information is not considered classified from native entities. The other individual hesitates before speaking. Oh my, it's been quite some time. I'll be frank, I thought all the old allies had died out. Did your grandfather or some such relation have a lover out here? Jasper bows. My deepest apologies. I'm afraid I cannot answer that question. Very well, I understand. I'd invite you to my cottage for tea, but I suppose that's not possible for you, is it? I'm afraid not. The conversational partner laughs, plucks a cabbage leaf, and offers it to Dr. Japers. You needn't fear so much. Take this and be on your way. Japers accepts the leaf with both hands. Thank you very much. Happy travels to you, and may you find the one you're looking for. Afterward, Dr. Japers later used the cabbage leaf to feed a native entity resembling a field mouse, which in turn aided him on his travels. Encounter 3. Interviewee, the Leaf Giver. Forward. Interview conducted in 2013 during Japers' 9th expedition into the Yonder Vale of Restless Wanderers. Due to the unique knowledge that the one who bore the gift of cabbage seems to possess about our world, Dr. Japers was instructed to conduct a more thorough interview should it be encountered a third time. Additionally, Japers was granted special permission to make false statements for the sake of facilitating conversation, as his first encounter showed the fluffy one to be susceptible to deceptions. Traveling along the way of weary adventurers, Dr. Japers encounters a small white cottage with a thatched roof. A small opening in the shape of a rabbit's head is cut into the front door. Japers approaches it and knocks. Hello, is anyone home? Yes, 1 minute. Exactly 1 minute passes. The door opens. Ah, we meet again. Please, come in, come in. Dr. Japers is led inside. The interior is sparsely decorated with wooden furniture and needlework. You have a lovely home. You have a lovely sense of humor. The homeowner hurries to a kitchenette in the corner and begins preparing a kettle. No, really, I think it's charming. I suppose. It was just meant to be until things cooled down on the other side, but, well, you know. I'm afraid I don't know. Would you like some help? No. You just have yourself a seat at the table over there while I get the tea ready for us. Japers draws a chair and seats himself. You're most generous, but I don't think my digestion will permit it. Oh, poor fellow. Well, I find the presence of tea to be a comfort in any case. You are most kind. Tell me, could you explain what you meant by cooled down? His furred host turns the stove on and stares out a window cut into a smaller shape as the hole in the door. Your relatives didn't tell you the full story, I suppose, about the turmoil that drove us here. Turmoil? Was there a war? The tufted one sighs. Isn't there always? My grandparents did tell me there were wars, but I never knew of one with you and your kind. That doesn't surprise me. There are very few, even in these woods, that still remember. Memory is the burden of the old, I suppose. But yes, when I was a young lad, in a form very different from the one I possess now, I lived on the other end of the well. It's where I was born, where I grew up, and if I dared to dream, where I will someday return. Why don't you then? I can't. Not unless I know I could be welcomed back. The maker of the tea pours a cup and seats itself across the table. I'm sure you don't know this, since they keep themselves hidden, but there are those who would destroy me at nearest chance. My apologies. These are dark memories. I'm sure you don't want to hear about them. The teller of the tea sips its tea. The teller of the story sips its tea. No, please, go on. These things are of interest to me. I am a fellow scholar, remember? As you wish, fellow scholar. I shall talk until the tea is cold. Much as it grieves me to say it, we were betrayed. We had fought side by side, you know, in the war against that factory. We had done nothing but help them, and what did they do? They destroyed us. They took so many of our lives and all of our names. Some of us fled here when the war was just beginning, but not many, not many. Still, though, I don't hate them. Well, I'm glad for that. I'd imagine so. There are some old fogies around this part who bear a grudge against the whole species. But I know you're not all bad. There were many who sheltered us, fought for us, even died for us. Some came to live here amongst us, rest their souls. I myself courted a human once upon a time. He came to visit a time or two, but I never saw him after that. I still wonder now and again if he fell at the hands of an unkind neighbor, or if he merely stopped caring to see me. But it's no matter now. I apologize for prattling on about old flames. Certainly such things are of no interest to you, fellow scholar. On the contrary, I'd quite like to hear more of these stories. The life of you and your people is of great interest to me. I'm sure it is, fellow scholar. A strong breeze moves through the house. Neither party speaks for half a minute. The rabbit person who lives there grunts and places a hand to its head as if in pain. Dr. Japers places his hand against the teapot. It appears the tea has gotten cold. I think it's time I took my leave. What? You're leaving? I should leave too, then? No. I'll be going alone, thank you. It's abrupt, yes, and I'm grievously sorry to do this, but I really must be going. I believe I'm long overdue to return home. What is... I don't... Please don't go. Something isn't... It can't be helped. Stop! What have you done? I don't know who... What happened to my name? I can't... Dr. Japers quickly exits the house. His former companion whimpers and looks at his hands as he leaves. It does taste rather tart. Afterward, Dr. Japers successfully returned to Site 8, but was reported missing soon after. Investigations into his disappearance and current whereabouts have been inconclusive. It was initially theorized that Japers was exposed to an anomalous influence on his physiology during his most recent mission. However, thorough analysis showed no genetic anomalies in the fur he'd shed in his expedition gear. End of file. So, as you guessed earlier on, I saw it in chat, this is the way that the SCP universe deals with the Fae. The Fae are a people of rules and powerful magics, specifically associated with names. In the SCP universe, the Fae were a race of people, a race of creatures that were hunted for the power that their names possess by the Factory, which is only generally hinted here in this story, but is the idea of the Factory and their war against the Fae continues on in many stories and SCP articles on this site. And I want to make sure that it is fully understood what happens here, especially at the very end here. Because when a Fae... Basically, Faes have power over names. Names can be anything. Names don't have to be necessarily what you were born with. So yes, the two individuals switched, but in a very literal sense, right? The name... So a name can be associated with lots of things, right? So our interviewer's name was Dr. Japers, right? That's his actual name. But any sort of title has the same power as a name. And so what happened was that the rabbit person used the name Fellow Scholar. That's a title. And he used it 3 times in a row. Each time, Dr. Japers failed to rebuke it. Each time, this individual left him a title, and Japers did not rebuke it, that name became more and more ingrained as a title for him. Eventually, after 3 uses, it was strong enough for this Fae creature to subsume the identity of Dr. Japers. But this is a whole subsummation of the character of Dr. Japers. This Fae creature, who had the head of a rabbit, became Dr. Japers. Historically, for the past and present and future. Historically and going forward, ever in time, Dr. Japers has always been a man with the head of a rabbit. Dr. Japers has always had the head of a rabbit going forward. This is referenced further up, most notably by the fact that there were two colleagues of an individual up here who had no names, right? Like, as far as all records are concerned, neither of the two individuals mentioned above had names. They never had names. They were just never given names, which doesn't make sense, but that's the case. And it's marked as weird, right? Like, somebody marks it as weird, right? A member of the Department of Memetics marks that as weird, that these people did not have names, but everybody else accepts it because it's always been true. It's just always been true. And up here, we see this individual is called Desk. That's just his name. That's always been his name. Doesn't make sense, but that's his name. But at one point he he talked about this place enough that he gave it a name. And once it has a name, it can give that name to you. See, that's the important thing. Once it has a name, it can give that name to you, and it can trade, names across. That's why you can't give them names, why you can't refer to them as names. Because if you know its name or it knows your name, or if you give it a name verbally, right, that's enough power, right? Now you both have a name associated with one of them, and that can then be swapped over, right? So Desk was, in another reality, was a person, but at this point, traces of soil and human tissue were found in the pencil, paper, and the Harvey Mansfield. And now, forever going forward in this universe, that specific kind of desk is called a Harvey Mansfield. Forever. And not only forever, but always in the past. That version of a desk has always been referred to as a Harvey Mansfield. And in fact, the words Harvey and Mansfield both mean desk now. They're just generalizations for the word desk. Right? Much in the same way that, like, roll top can be used as a generalization for desk, right? Harvey can now in this world be used as a generalization for the word desk. Mansfield can now be used as a generalization for the word desk. Right? And this has always been true. Where's the other good one? Yeah, this guy's name has always been Ethan Mercy. It's just legitimately always true. He used a similar epithet several times, but that epithet doesn't mean anything. They don't know what epithet it was, because that epithet no longer means anything. It's his name now. This is why I love this. The writing on this was so wildly good. And it started from, like, the very beginning, because, like, this thing. Sudden onset of psychogenic amnesia, right? This is because the individual that has, quote-unquote, always been there is different now. They're a different entity. Now, they have literally, like, throughout history, like, cause and effect will always lead to this person having been there and be in this form, but they actually weren't. That's just the effect of the name swap. So they don't actually remember key things. There's a lot of things they don't necessarily remember because they didn't actually live that life. So, like, they, exposed subjects suddenly get amnesia. Well, it's because they've changed. They've become a different thing. The development of non-human physical characteristics among exposed subjects, such as feathers and pollen sacs. These are things that the Fey creature had before they took that name and became this individual. But to sort of rationalize the fact that these people have these events or have these characteristics, it's considered part of the breach, right? This is cool. Sudden involuntary transport of exposed subjects into the wilderness. If the Fey creature takes their name while that Fey creature is still in the wilderness, then to all outside observers, it will look like that individual suddenly went to the forest. Yeah, this is something that took me several reads before I fully understood this section right here. Right? Yeah, the involuntary transport of exposed subjects without the use of procedure 4000 Halloway, because they didn't actually transport there. They were there, they were always there. But the conversation or the leading events leading to the breach, leading to the name swap, had to have happened. And so this is rationalized in the flow of time and causality as the people suddenly transporting into the forest, right? Manifestation of various flora within indoor spaces where the nomenclature was used. That's because they didn't do it there. They were in the forest, or the fey creature that took their identity was in the forest. So when the event happens and the name swap happens, now that person with their name is in the forest surrounded by trees. So they rationalize that as all the flora of the forest spontaneously manifests around this person. Also, extreme iron deficiency in exposed subjects. Obviously, the Fae hate cold iron. The Fae have an extreme allergy to cold iron, and so they have no iron in their blood. They have no iron in their bodies, but they don't have the expected negative side effects. So even though they have even though they have literally no iron in their bodies anywhere, that's not a problem for them. But again, these are exposed subjects, so they are Fae creatures that have stolen the names and identities of the individuals. This is so, it's like every little bit adds to like, and then like the final execution of this bit here, where the names don't change, but all of a sudden, Japers is the creature, and the Fey entity is what used to be Japers, which is now a nameless, pathetic creature. Yeah, it's so cool. I love this. This is probably one of my favorite SCP articles, period, bar none. And the writing is impeccable, and not only is the writing impeccable, it's so laced with possibility that it forever changed the way that writing on the SCP Wiki is done.